The airport was loud, restless, alive with the usual chaos of rolling suitcases and last-minute boarding calls when it happened. No one noticed him at first. He stood tall near the departure gate, shoulders squared, wearing crisp navy dress blues that looked like they had just come off a ceremonial hanger. The gold trident on his chest caught the overhead lights. His ribbons were perfectly aligned. His posture was unmistakable. He wasn't just a sailor. He was a United States Navy SEAL. But to some people in that terminal, all they saw was a black man in uniform. And to one airport police officer, that was enough to start something that would unravel in ways no one could have predicted. The officer approached with an edge already in his voice. ID, he demanded, not asking, not explaining. The SEAL calmly reached into his pocket and handed over his military identification. The officer barely glanced at it before scoffing. "You expect me to believe this?" A few travelers turned their heads. The SEAL's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. "Yes, sir. I'm assigned to Naval Special Warfare, traveling on official orders." That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. The officer stepped closer, invading his space. "You're not boarding this flight until we verify who you really are." His hand gripped the SEAL's arm. Cameras started lifting, phones tilted. The SEAL did not resist. He didn't flinch. Years of discipline held him in place. He had survived BUDS training. He had operated in hostile territories under fire. He had led men into darkness and brought them home. But here, in a domestic airport, in his own country, he was being treated like a suspect. The officer suddenly shoved him backward. The crowd gasped as the decorated operator stumbled against a row of seats. "Stop resisting," the cop shouted, even though the SEAL's hands were visible, open, calm. Another officer joined in, forcing him face first against the cold tile floor. His metal scraped, the gold insignia bent under pressure. 12 minutes. That's how long it took for the entire situation to explode beyond that terminal. Because what the officer didn't know, what no one there knew, was that this particular SEAL wasn't just any operator. He had recently returned from a classified joint mission coordinated directly through the Office of the Secretary of Defense. His name was on briefings inside the Pentagon. His commanding officer had personally approved his travel that morning, and when he didn't check in for his scheduled secure call, alarms started ringing. At Naval Special Warfare Command, a lieutenant noticed the delay. Calls were made. The airport confirmed there had been an incident. Someone mentioned an arrest. The name matched. Within minutes, a colonel was on the phone with airport security. Within minutes after that, a senior defense official was demanding body cam footage. Back at the terminal, the SEAL was being cuffed. A small trickle of blood ran from a cut near his temple where his head had struck the floor. He said nothing. His training told him silence was strength. Around him, whispers grew louder. Someone in the crowd finally spoke up. "That's a Navy SEAL. Look at his trident." The officer barked back, "Stay out of this." But it was already too late. The video was live. Thousands were watching. A retired Marine in the terminal stepped forward, anger visible in his eyes. "You better check that ID again," he warned quietly. The officer ignored him. 12 minutes after the first shove, the officer's radio crackled. His expression changed. "Put your supervisor on," came the voice from the other end. Not a request, an order. Within moments, the supervisor arrived, phone pressed tightly to his ear, face pale. He looked at the SEAL on the ground, at the bent insignia, at the gathering crowd. "Uncuff him, now." The officer hesitated. "Sir, I said now." The cuffs came off. The SEAL slowly stood, adjusting his uniform with careful dignity. The supervisor stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Petty officer, I sincerely apologize." The title alone caused a ripple. The original officer's confidence drained. But it wasn't over, because while apologies were whispered in the terminal, inside the Pentagon, the response was anything but quiet. Senior officials had already reviewed the first clips circulating online. They recognized the uniform, they recognized the man, and they were furious. A call went directly to the airport authority's executive office, another to the mayor, another to the chief of police. This wasn't just about one bad interaction. This was about a decorated warfighter assaulted in full-dress blues on American soil. Careers began collapsing in real time. The officer who initiated the confrontation was placed on immediate administrative leave before he even left the terminal. His supervisor was ordered to submit a full incident report before the end of the hour. Internal Affairs was activated. By the time the SEAL finally boarded a later flight, The police chief had already issued a public statement announcing a comprehensive investigation, but the Pentagon's involvement ensured it would be far more than that. Over the next 48 hours, body cam footage was released. It showed the SEAL complying at every step. It showed the officer escalating without cause. It showed the shove, the slam, the false accusation of resisting. The footage ignited national outrage. Veterans organizations demanded accountability. Civil rights attorneys called for termination. Lawmakers requested briefings. The officer's personnel file came under scrutiny. Previous complaints surfaced. Patterns emerged. The incident was no longer isolated. It was systemic. Under mounting pressure, the department announced disciplinary proceedings. The officer resigned before he could be formally terminated, but it didn't save his pension review from being opened. The supervisor was demoted. Mandatory retraining was ordered across the entire airport police unit, and the city council passed new oversight measures within weeks. But the most powerful moment came quietly. A week later, the SEAL stood again in full dress blues, this time at a ceremony honoring service members. Reporters asked him how he felt. He didn't attack, he didn't rage. He simply said, "I serve this country because I believe in what it can be, not just what it is." His composure did more than any press conference could have. The viral video that began with humiliation ended as a symbol of dignity under pressure. The Pentagon never publicly detailed the private calls that were made that day. They didn't need to. The message was clear. When one of theirs is wronged, accountability will follow. The airport returned to its routine. Flights took off, travelers moved on. But for those who witnessed it and the millions who watched online, the image remains unforgettable. A decorated black Navy SEAL in dress blues slammed to the floor without cause, standing back up with unshaken honor, while the system that failed him scrambled to correct itself. 12 minutes was all it took to change everything.